All right, folks. I'm going to make it a short rebuttal here. Oops, did I screw that? I sure did, but that's all right. Make short rebuttal to this guy is Ib Sabor, who apparently has decided that he needed to have both a Panigale R and a HP4 because an R1 wasn't good enough for him, and he needed to have both bikes, and he had to impress his friends by going out and buying this other bike. So he then did a comparison video as an owner of both bikes, in which he raved about the Panigale R and how it was better in almost every way than the HP4, and that's fine. I can understand, someone having a bike and having an opinion of it and wanting to make a video of it and all that. My only complaint about this guy is that apparently he feels necessary to have two sport bikes and talk whatever he says about the Panigale. It's fine, but he misses the point of having a sport bike, which is to ride the sport bike, not to have it sitting in front of your house so you can show it off to your friends or neighbors. Especially not to have it sitting out in front of your house so you can show it off to your friends and neighbors. The problem with this beautiful Italian sport bike that costs 30 grand, aside from the fact that it costs 30 grand, is that it's a 30 grand sport bike, and therefore it's $30,000 worth of money for somebody to come over and fuck with. And trust me, you have that bike sitting out of your front of your house, very often, someone's gonna come by and fuck with it. I guarantee it. You go out and ride that bike around the neighborhood, no matter whether it has oil and suspension, or whether it has Brembo brakes, whether it has magnesium wheels and looks really pretty, someone's going to go out there and fuck with that bike. Because you know what? It's ostentatious is the big issue with that bike. It's not even that great a bike. Okay, as good looking as it is, you put mirrors on it, it looks like a stupid Hornet. Okay? All the little weight savings advantages that it has also undermine the suspension and handling, and which is why people say even though the BMW HP4 is heavier, may not have as much power, it's still a much more exciting bike to ride. It's still faster on the track. You still see the World Superbike title being taken by the HP4 satellite teams, or the Kawasaki. You see Tom Sykes taking the World Superbike title outright this year. You see Josh Graves, Josh Heron running away with AMA Pro, riding on Graves Motorsport teams, the Yamaha R1s. I don't see anyone riding Panigales anywhere to win anything. And it's been a long time since Ducati has ever been at the top of any motorcycle racing environment whatsoever, okay? Because of the mindset, the singular focus, the mindset that the Ducati engineers have in terms of building their bikes. They are fine in their context. I personally think even the sound of an R1 with the crossfire engine, cross-plank engine, is that right, cross-crank engine, sounds better than the desmodromic valves on the Ducati. And a lot of people agree with me that. They think it sounds like a box of rocks being churned here. Whereas it's hard to beat, man. Seriously, a Two Brothers exhaust on an inline four. Even the CBR 1000 sounds great in the mid-range. And you put that cross-plane crank under it, man. It just sounds just marvelous. One thing I love about the R1 is the simple mirrors. Plain, simple aerodynamic mirrors. They look great. Okay. It's great that you can fold the mirrors back on the Ducati and all these other bikes when you're cutting through traffic, but to me those mirrors are all too wide anyway. I'd want to change the stock mirrors regardless. I hate those blinkers on the freaking mirrors. I hate them. Okay? You can't tell me that an RS-V4, which is a top-rated handling bike, doesn't outhandle the Panigale despite the weight advantage, okay? Despite the fact that it's a V-twin. It just can't be the best platform for handling and performance if no other manufacturer has followed that half monocoque frame and magnesium, the bolting the rear suspension, the swing arm, and the shock directly to the engine. Nobody else is following that path, okay? How can it be a good path to take? No one is doing it except Ducati, okay? Kawasaki is taking the traditional inline four with the twin spars aluminum frame to the top of the mountain, man, just out of nowhere. Suzuki has always been an industry-leading performer in terms of their motor. One of the best street bikes I've ever ridden. I've ridden a whole lot of street bikes. Honda, I can't really say that I've been impressed by the CBR 1000 in terms of handling, but I love the V4s. I rode the the VFR 1000 and 750 when they were out 20 years ago, and I bet the new RCV is a very good looking bike, a very good handling bike. I'm sure it has a ton of mid-range power, and I'm sure that as hot as the Panigale is, I'm not going to be all that impressed by it. I'm sure it's not bad, but for me, it's going to be twice the bike that I can handle if I take it out to its limits. They look great. Do you know what looks great to me in these photos? The girl on the left. I'm thinking out of those three things that what looks really good here to me is that hot blonde in the short pants, or even the long pants, the stockings. So you can get back to the power, you can talk about the valve train, you can talk about the looks, you can talk about the performance. When the tire meets the road, the Panigale is a fail, okay? Even in stock form, with all those advantages, still one of the slowest bikes in the test. No matter how good it looks in front of your house, you take it to the limit, it can always end up looking like this on the back of a truck, all scraped up, okay? Now, no matter how good it looks on the street, always have to worry about someone coming out and trying to steal it from you. Someone trying to knock it over, someone disrespecting your ride. Now get two or more and see how that works. I forgot to add one thing, one minor correction. The Ducati is not the only, the Panigale is not the only bike that uses a monocoque frame that's still being made. My 7-year-old ZX12R, Kawai's ZX12R uses it, and the ZX14R also uses a monocoque frame. So it's not like it's, you know, entirely a non-starter or not relevant technology in this day and age, but I wouldn't call a ZX14R, you know, a great handling sport bike. It's not bad. It's not as bad as the Boost is by far. And the Boost is certainly one of the slowest handling bikes I've ever ridden. Definitely for a sport bike, it's the slowest handling bike I've ever ridden. But the 14R is slow for a leader bike in terms of a super bike, in terms of handling. It's definitely slower than any leader bike you will ever ride. The 10R is about as fast as any leader bike, and the Gixxer 1000 is certainly about as fast as any in terms of handling as any leader bike. The R1 I think is a moderately handling leader bike, but it's got a good solid suspension, even with the stock forks and rear springs. I just think the Gixxer is probably oversprung a little bit. The R1 is not quite so oversprung, but you know, all these things you can get into. There's nothing that you can say about a bike that's really gonna tell you if it's really properly set up for you until you get on it and ride it. And if a bike is oversprung, okay, and you get on it and you're 250 pounds or whatever, it's going to be better sprung for you as a heavier rider. So one of the things that you're going to have to do to really optimize the bike's handling, no matter what kind of bike you get, is get the spring rate set right for your weight and your normal riding conditions. So if you start loading a lot of weight on the bike, you know, you're going to want a heavier spring in the back. Just crank up the preload or reducing the compression rebound damping is not going to do the job. That fundamental spring rate is going to be either too high or too low for you depending on your weight, your normal riding weight. But that aside, the problem with the Ducati implementation of the monocoque and the monocoque in general, it's the whole idea of the monocoque was to make the frame light and stiff. You can make like a solid unit of metal, aluminum, steel, whatever, make it as rigid as possible, make the frame stiff. That whole philosophy for handling went out the window, you know, I don't know, at least 10, 15 years ago. Everyone but Ducati seems to realize that for proper handling when your bike is leaned over, for good handling and supple handling of bumps, you need to have some flexibility, some flex in the frame. You don't get that with a monocoque. You don't get that by bolting the suspension directly to the frame. That's not the way to go for better handling, and that's why Ducati has had so many troubles in racing. That's the whole point of that whole train of thought. Anyway, but no, they're not the only manufacturers making monocoque bikes. So there. Anyway, what else would I want to say? I think it's nice that there's some people out there who are wealthy enough to own multiple bikes, to have a bike collection. I certainly would have, you know, more than one bike. I would have kept my old FJ when I sold it this fall. I certainly would have kept it. I just have a major security issue where 90%, 95% of the people who come through our neighborhood respect people's vehicles, respect the people that live there. But there's the 5% who are just assholes who don't. Okay, and if they see something sitting out in front of your house that they can fuck with, they'll happily walk up and start fucking with it. That's just how they are. Okay, so garaging and storage and all that becomes an issue. Security becomes an issue. Um, Having multiple bikes in a two car garage that you can store them all in is an issue. But you don't secure your belongings by parading them out in front of your house. You don't secure your belongings by going on YouTube and saying, oh look, I have 2 bikes in my garage that are combined worth about 50 grand on top of the car sitting out in front of my house, which is also worth about 50 grand. Now, even if you're not an asshole, someone's gonna come by and fuck with your shit. Someone's gonna come by and try to steal it. I can guarantee you, you put your stuff on YouTube, someone's gonna come by and try to steal it. Someone's gonna come try and screw with it. Okay? If you are an asshole on top of that, you're just inviting people to come by your house and fuck with your stuff. And for the last reason is like a minor frisson on top of the first reason. It just isn't a wise idea to go around parading your stuff on the internet. Okay? Being an asshole on top of that, I guarantee you it will become like a meme. I got to this guy's house and fucked up his bikes and no one knows about it except me. Okay, and everybody else on Reddit or on Instagram or on YouTube. When you come in and find your stuff completely trashed, don't blame anybody but yourself.